Hi, my name is Samantha Smith. This is my final project for Intro to Computational Thinking, and I chose the school scores dataset. So this data comes from the Common Core of Data, which is the Department of Education's primary database on public elementary and secondary education in the US. And so the dataset is broken down into the following categories: gender, year, GPA, state, family income, total, and score ranges. However, for this study, I only examined gender, year, state, and the family income keys. So I'll go into how each of those categories are broken down. For gender, it is broken into two categories, male and female, and under each of those categories, it looks at the average verbal and math scores and the total test takers. For state, it is either a code or a name. So, for example, Virginia would be VA, and then obviously for name, it would be Virginia. And then family income is broken up into a few categories. The categories are less than 20,000, between 20 and 40,000, between 40 and 60, and so on. And then from each of those categories, it is broken down again. It's the same as the male and female categories. It's broken down into average verbal score, average math score, and the total test takers. So this is my data structure broken down into a bullet list. So I didn't use total, I didn't use score ranges, therefore I didn't include them in this data structure. And you can see that in my data structure map as well, which is a little easier to follow given the amount of data that is in this data set. So for this data set, there are a few limitations. First off, I noticed when I was looking at this data set and starting to write my code, this data set only provides averages, which makes it difficult to create certain visualizations since there is only one data point in certain lists. Also, this data set does not provide data for other standardized tests. I thought it would be interesting if it were broken down at first into categories of, say, the ACTs and then the SATs, of course, since it only looks at primary and secondary education. And then also it does not upfront define the parameters of this data set. So coming into it, I initially did not know the earliest year of the data set or the most recent data included in the data set. Moving on to my questions, I had seen an article published by the Daily Progress, and it said that Virginia students did much better on the SATs than other students in other states. And I wanted to examine if the average SAT score in Virginia had been in a general upward trajectory or if this was the start of a new trend. So let's go on to my visualization. As you can see, it looks like it is in a general upward trend, except for the outliers in 2011 and 2012. The red line in this visualization represents the average math score over time, and the blue line represents the average verbal score over time. I thought a line plot was most appropriate for this visualization because I wanted to look at data over time. For question number 2, according to AEI, the results of the 2016 SAT scores confirm a 50-year-long trend that suggests high school males do better than females on the math section of the SAT. And then referencing the article I previously mentioned, published by the Daily Progress, that stated Virginia students did better than the national average. I wanted to see if this would change in Virginia. Since Virginia students do better, I wanted to see if maybe females would do better than males, since they generally do better than students in other states. As you can see, that was not the case in Virginia. Males still did better than females over a 5-year span, looking at 2012 to 2015. And the blue line in this visualization represents the female average math score from 2010 to 2015, and the red line represents the male average math score from 2010 to 2015. For my final question, According to an article in the New York Times, higher the household income, the higher the SAT score. So the census stated that on average, the median Virginia household income was $10,497 higher than the national average. I wanted to see how this impacted SAT scores broken down by income brackets. So I made a bar chart, and as you can see, along the bottom are the income brackets. Along the left, the y-axis are the average math scores. And this is for the year 2015 in the state of Virginia. So in conclusion, looking back at question 1 that addressed the overall SAT scores in Virginia from 2010 to 2015, there has been a general upward trajectory. However, there was a dip in 2011 and 2012, and I referenced an article at the bottom of this slide that goes more in depth about why that dip occurred, but basically, in summary, what it says is that that dip was mostly due to the influx of students who were taking the SAT during that period of time. For my second question, which looked at males compared to females from 2010 to 2015 in Virginia, in regards to the average math score on the SAT, it confirmed that females do follow the nationwide trend of earning lower scores than males on the math portion of the SAT in the state of Virginia. And then for my final question, although the household income in Virginia is higher than the national household income, this generally did not impact that statement that the New York Times reported on that said the higher the household income, the higher the SAT score. As for social impacts, legislators might be interested in this. It may show areas that may need some improvement. They may want to revise or improve the rigor of their educational programs, either statewide or in certain areas or certain counties. For educational administrators, this is kind of along the same trend as the legislators. It's going to show some problem areas where they may want to improve. For example, if their certain district is doing poorly in verbal, they may want to increase the rigor of their English programs or their other verbal programs. As for prospective residents, I know for many prospective residents, average school scores can be a deciding factor, especially if the prospective residents have children. In conclusion, as a Hokie, I will conduct myself with honor and integrity at all times. I will not lie, cheat, or steal, nor will I accept the actions of those who do. Thank you for listening to my final presentation for Intro to Computational Thinking.